My name is Kimya Moyo, and I am a retired educator. I grew up in Cincinnati, left Cincinnati, and spent a lot of my adult life in Chicago, then spent 5 years in West Africa, and then came back home. So I've really been here since 1985 for the longest stint.
So tell me your affiliation with Robert O'Neill.
Mr. O'Neill was someone that you would always see in the community. Any day, any place, he was always there. And he always had a smile, and he was always talking and doing something artistic and encouraging people to pursue whatever it was that they were interested in. He was the artist of the community. He was the artist, and it's not about having the most beautiful piece of artwork. He just embodied art in the community. He was everywhere. There was not an event that I could go to where he wasn't there. When I came back to Cincinnati in 1985, after having left Liberia where I was living, I was very interested in, I was still young then, and I was very interested in drama. And it seems like to me, and I can't remember exactly, but I just remember being drawn to the Arts Consortium because that's where, if there was any black art, that's where it would be. You have to understand that my history says that when I was in Chicago in the 60s and 70s, I joined the Kumba drama group, and we were housed in the South Side Community Arts Center. And that was my first experience with art centers. And having spent about 8 years in the Southside Community Arts Center, where every genre of art came through, I began to understand that that has to be a stable part of any black community. And so I guess that's what drove me to the Arts Consortium once I came back from Liberia. I'm just looking for something. You know, I had 5 children and they needed to be involved in some kind of art. Where else am I supposed to go? At least that's what I was thinking in my head. And so I remember running into Charles Holman.
Yes.
I remember running into Charles Holman. And next thing I knew, I was in the play, Dream on Monkey Mountain. And that got me even more involved with not just art and drama in the city, but I started meeting all these artists and these dramatists. And it was like everything was centered at the Arts Consortium. And that's exactly what the Arts Consortium was. It was a consortium of every aspect of whatever a child, a young adult, or an elder needed to fulfill the art requirement that we all have, whether we recognize that or not. It was there. It was there. And when it left a big, gaping hole.
So that leads me to, what will the new Romac building and center do for the community?
Just what the Southside Community Arts Center did and has done and is doing for the South Side of Chicago, and just what the Arts Consortium previously did for the West End and the Black community in Cincinnati. Romac, however, is going to do something different and something more, because whatever we had back in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s can only be built upon. This is a whole different era in which we now live. And so therefore, Romac is going to come with all of the past, but it's going to incorporate the future and the present technology and art of the future. It's got to incorporate that. It's going to be different. I'm just talking. But it is. It's going to be different in the sense that it is going to appeal to the entire Cincinnati community. It's going to appeal to those communities that the Arts Consortium didn't appeal to. It's going to bring them all in. The West End and the area that we're talking about for Romac right now is becoming an area that is more diverse than what the Arts Consortium was in the past. I have to continue to do this comparison with Chicago because I still consider myself part of Chicago and I go back all the time. And I was recently at the Southside Community Arts Center in Chicago, and I'm noticing that even though it's in the same building, the same location, it is beginning to explode out of those bricks because the essence of the 21st century, the essence of 2025 is pushing those bricks out. It has to become a different kind of animal. And so that's why I'm saying that Romac is going to do that. I just know it is, and I can't be more specific, but my vision sees, when I close my eyes now, I see a diverse group of people going in and out of Romac. I see it. How many stories is that building? 2? Mm-hmm. I see some, but I also see windows, glass windows around, because it's a corner building. So I see glass windows around that corner so that people can see in and people can see out, and that the sun and that the light is going to come in and provide that spirit and that energy that is needed. So I see art exhibits, and I see music, and I see the pottery. I see that. I see them doing pottery. I see all of that in different parts of I see photography. I see they don't have dark rooms anymore, but this is going to have a dark room because something's going to happen in that dark room. I see it. I see the technology. I see the coding. I see it.
Awesome.
I think that should be everything.
You answered it all.
Yeah. Unless there's anything else you want to share about Romac or Robert?
I do have one thing to share, and that is, I think initially, Toy, you said something about inspiration to your last question was something about, what was it, inspiration?
What's an inspiration to young artists?
One of the things that I think is critical, and it probably speaks to the educator in me, is that we have to know our history. Art history, the history of the city. When I went to Ghana, I was sitting there, and I took some students with me to Ghana, and we were sitting there interacting with the kids on the beach. And those kids started talking, and they were telling us all about Ghana. They were telling us all about Accra. And so then they said to my kids, they said, well, tell us about where you come from. And the kids told general things, but it was never as in-depth and specific as what they were talking about. And that says to me that until we know where we are located, we really can't be venturing out. Because you have to, whenever you venture out, you are representing where you came from. And I say that to say to anybody and to the young artists, you have to know the history of Cincinnati. You have to know the history of the Arts Consortium. You have to know the history of Robert O'Neill. You can't talk about just what you're doing. You have to be able to integrate what you're doing with the history, with what came before, because now there's that connection. And if you can't make that connection, then you're out here on an island doing your own thing. We do nothing without being able to stand still, strong, and tall in whatever space you're in. But that strength, that pride, is only upheld because the ancestors are holding you up. And if you don't understand that, and if you don't have Robert O'Neill as one of those ancestors holding you up, there's a problem here. So you must know your history. There's got to be something that we do that helps people when they come into this space, that they know what they're coming into, that they understand the energy that's in that space, because there's going to be an energy, there's going to be a spirit. And we don't want nobody running out. We want them just to meld into it because they understand this is the ancestors. When you come in here, the ancestors are going to be here.
Got it.